I didn't hear her knock. One moment my room was just a square of pale morning light and the faint smell of instant coffee. The next, she was standing in the doorway, her hand resting on the frame like she'd been there longer than I realized. "You left something," she said softly. Then, after a beat, "Or maybe you meant to." Her voice wasn't accusing, more like a question wrapped inside a question. The night before had been a blur of rain, of us talking too late in the back corner of her bookshop while she stacked receipts, and I tried to explain a drawing I'd been working on. She'd lent me a slim hardback without writing my name on the slip. It was sitting now on the edge of my desk, damp at the corners, the scent of paper and rain mixing with my coffee. I turned in my chair, heart thudding once. She was older, mid-40s, maybe 45, but the first thing you noticed wasn't her age. It was the way she seemed to belong anywhere she stood. Today she wore a navy coat still flecked with drizzle, her hair tucked up messily. She looked at my desk, then at me, then back again, as if weighing something invisible. "I was just finishing it," I said too fast. My words tripped over themselves. She smiled, "Not quite. I thought maybe you forgot on purpose." The room felt suddenly smaller. My walls were bare except for a sketch pinned above the bed. She stepped inside, closed the door with a soft click, and the sound of the city outside dimmed. I hadn't invited her, but I didn't want her to leave either. "I didn't forget," I said quietly. "I wanted to bring it back myself." Her fingers drifted over the spines of my books stacked on a low shelf, brushing dust. She stopped at one, traced the title with her thumb. Her movements were unhurried, but her shoulders held a faint stiffness, like someone who's used to walking away before she's ready. "I don't usually do this," she murmured. "Do what?" "Follow my customers home." She gave a small laugh that wasn't a laugh at all. I should have said something clever, something to make her stay. Instead, I watched her eyes flick to my sketch, the one of a street corner I'd never actually stood on, and something in her expression softened. "You draw places you want to be?" she asked. "Maybe," I said, "or people I want to be with." That made her still. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the radiator ticking. She let her hand fall to her side, fingers curling and uncurling once. "You're young," she said at last, almost to herself. "You'll figure it out." "I'm 26, I blurted, as if that explained anything. Her mouth curved, not quite a smile, but close enough to make my chest tighten. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded note. She set it on my desk beside the damp book. "I found this tucked inside," she said. "It's yours, isn't it?" I didn't remember leaving a note. My fingers hovered above the paper but didn't touch. Her gaze met mine, steady, unreadable, a flicker of something like risk in it. "If it's not, I'll go," she added softly. I opened my mouth, but before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the desk, screen lighting up with an incoming message I didn't want her to see. She glanced at it, then at me, and for the first time since she walked in, she took a small step back toward the door. Her fingers hovered on the doorknob as my phone buzzed again. The glow of the screen threw pale light on her hand. She didn't ask who it was. She didn't have to. "I should," she began, but her voice trailed off. "Please stay," I said before I'd thought it through. My throat felt dry. "Just for a minute." She hesitated. Then she let go of the knob and stepped back into the room. The door clicked shut, sealing us inside again. For a while, neither of us spoke. I picked up the note she'd brought. It was my handwriting, a quick sketch of words I'd scrawled last night while she was ringing up another customer. A line from a poem about leaving too soon. I didn't remember slipping it into the book. "I'm sorry," I murmured. She folded her arms, eyes on the floor. "Don't be. I've done worse things by accident." Her tone was light, but her shoulders slumped. She sat on the edge of my desk chair, her coat still on. The scent of rain clung to her. Up close, I could see faint lines at the corners of her mouth, not just from age, but from holding things back. "You're married," I blurted before I could stop myself. I'd noticed the ring last night, a simple band she kept twisting with her thumb. She didn't flinch. "Separated," she said finally. "Almost a year. Papers still not signed." "Oh." The words sounded too small. She glanced at me then, a flash of warning and weariness in her eyes. "And you're my son's age," she added quietly. That hit harder than the ring. I stared at the carpet, heat creeping up my neck. He doesn't shop at the store, does he?" "No," she gave a dry, almost amused breath. "He lives out of state. Architecture student, too, ironically." I tried to smile, but it came out crooked. "Then I guess I'm not completely unique." She watched me for a moment, then shook her head. "You're not him." Her voice softened. "That's part of the problem." We both let out a nervous laugh that died in the quiet room. My heart was pounding. I wanted to tell her everything. How I'd been sketching her hands without realizing it. How I waited for the sound of her shop's doorbell before class. But the words stuck. She reached for the damp book on my desk, thumb brushing the warped cover. "You should dry it properly," she said. "I know," I murmured. Her thumb lingered on the book a second longer than necessary. Then, almost absent-mindedly, her other hand reached out and straightened a pencil rolling toward the edge of the desk. Our fingers brushed, a brief accidental touch. Neither of us moved away. Outside, a bus hissed to a stop. Somewhere a door slammed. In the cramped quiet of my room, her hand hovered near mine, not retreating, and a long second stretched between us, heavier and more dangerous than anything we'd said. The next afternoon, I was back at the shop under the pretense of returning another book. She was behind the counter, hair pinned up, glasses low on her nose, cataloging invoices. When she saw me, her pen paused mid-stroke. "You again," she said quietly. "Returning something," I murmured, holding up a book I hadn't even opened. The bell over the door jingled, and a gust of cold air rushed in. A tall man in a rain-dark jacket stepped inside, shaking off his umbrella. She stiffened. Her pen rolled off the counter and clattered to the floor. He wasn't wearing a ring, but something about the way he looked at her, too familiar, too possessive, made my stomach knot. "Forgot my copy," he said, eyes flicking to me, then back to her. "You still keep my orders behind the counter?" She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sure." He moved past me, close enough that his coat brushed my sleeve. His presence filled the shop like a storm cloud. She ducked into the back room to fetch something. Through the half-open door, I heard their low voices, his sharp, hers brittle. I gripped the book in my hands until my knuckles whitened. Part of me wanted to leave. Part of me wanted to burst in there and pull her out. Instead, I waited, pretending to study a shelf. When she came back, she looked pale. The man followed, a small brown bag in his hand. He gave me a cool glance on his way out. The bell jingled again. Silence returned, heavy and stale. I started. "Don't," she cut in, voice tight. "Just don't." She set her palms flat on the counter, as if steadying herself. I stepped closer anyway. "Is he my almost ex?" she said. "He still has keys. Sometimes he shows up." Her hands trembled, just once. I wanted to touch her, but didn't. "You could have called me." You'd what?" she whispered, finally looking up. Her eyes glistened. "You're 26. This is not your fight." But she didn't move back when I reached across the counter. My fingers brushed hers, and she didn't pull away. "You shouldn't be here," she said again, but softer. "I know," I breathed. For a heartbeat, the space between us collapsed. Her scent, my pulse, the faint warmth of her skin. She drew in a sharp breath like she might speak, or lean in, but the shop bell rang once more, bright and jarring. My roommate stood in the doorway, eyebrows raised. "Dude, you here? We're late for class." We both jumped apart. She turned her back, straightening receipts. My roommate gave me a puzzled look. "Yeah, coming," I said, voice unsteady. When I glanced back at her, she was still turned away, one hand resting on the counter as though it might hold her up. Rain hammered the shop windows so hard it sounded like static. We were alone. The last customer had left half an hour ago. She was closing out the till, movements sharper than usual. Every few seconds she glanced at the door as though expecting someone. I leaned against the poetry shelf, sketchbook tucked under my arm. "You're jumpy," I said, trying for lightness. Her laugh was brittle. Your roommate didn't say anything? He thinks you're grading my papers or something. I muttered. Why? She shut the cash drawer with a snap. Because my husband came back this morning. Took the keys from my desk. He asked who you were. A cold wave rolled through me. And you told him? That you were a student. Nothing more. Her voice cracked on more. I stared at her across the counter. Is that all we are? She flinched like I'd touched her. Don't do that, she whispered. Don't make me pick a word. I'm not making you pick, I said, stepping closer. I'm just standing here. You're the one pretending it doesn't matter. Her hands stilled on the counter. She looked up at me then, eyes wide, ring finger bare, but pale where the band had been. You're 26. You think this is a story about two people beating the odds. It isn't. It's a story about someone making a mistake she can't take back. I moved around the counter until we were only a few feet apart. Then tell me to go. I can't, she said. Her voice was almost a sob. The shop felt airless. Rain dripped from a leak into a bucket near the door. I could smell her perfume under the damp wool of her coat. She turned away, gripping the edge of a bookshelf until her knuckles whitened. I watched you draw me the other night, she murmured. Your hands were shaking. I swallowed. Because I couldn't stop looking at you. She let out a sound halfway between a laugh and a gasp. You don't understand what you're risking. Then explain it, I said. I'm still married, she whispered. He's still angry. And you? She cut herself off, trembling. And me? You make me want to stay, she said finally. I reached out, fingers hovering just above her shoulder. She didn't move. Outside, a car horn blared and faded. Inside, the air snapped tight between us. She turned slowly, eyes shining, mouth parted as if she were about to speak or about to lean in. My hand rose of its own accord, almost touching her cheek. She closed her eyes. And then the shop's doorbell rang, sharp, insistent, shattering the silence. Someone stepping inside, boots squeaking on the wet floor. We both froze, inches apart, everything suspended. The bell jangled, but no one came through. Just the empty gust of rain and a flyer blowing across the threshold. She exhaled shakily, stepping back from me, hands pressed to her temples as if holding her head together. I can't keep doing this, she whispered. Every time we're alone, it feels like a fuse burning down. Then let it burn, I said before I could stop myself. My voice came out rougher than I meant. Stop pretending we don't want this. She blinked at me, wet lashes sticking. You think wanting is enough? He's already circling. My shop lease is under his name. He could have you kicked out of your program, ruin my business, ruin. Her voice broke. Everything. I stepped forward anyway. So what do we do? Just keep pretending? Keep passing notes in books until he finally destroys it for us. Her shoulders sagged. You're angry. I'm scared, I corrected. And I'm tired of feeling like a secret I didn't choose to be. Silence. Only the drip of rain into the bucket. She closed her eyes. I lied to him, she said at last. Told him you were nobody. Told myself you were a distraction. She opened her eyes again, and they were raw. You're not. And that terrifies me. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then she reached across the counter and caught my wrist, fingers trembling. If we do this, she said, we do it knowing it could cost us. I turned my hand and laced my fingers through hers. I'm already paying, I said softly. Every time I leave here, it's like I've left a piece of myself on your floor. She gave a startled laugh sob and shook her head. You're too young to talk like that. Maybe I'm just old enough, I said. Old enough to decide for myself. We stood like that, hand in hand across the counter, two people who had run out of hiding places. The shop smelled of damp paper and rain. Outside, the storm had slowed to a steady hiss. I don't want to build another life on regret, she whispered. Then don't, I murmured. Her grip tightened. Her eyes searched mine as if trying to read a future that wasn't there yet. For a second, she leaned forward, so close I could see the faint freckles on her cheek, feel the warmth of her breath. My heart slammed in my chest. I have to choose, she said. Then choose, I whispered. A train horn wailed faintly somewhere in the city. She drew in a long, shuddering breath, still holding my hand, her face inches from mine. And that's where everything hung, on the edge of a decision, a heartbeat away from something that could not be taken back. 2 days passed without a text from her. The silence itched. I sketched until my hands cramped. Nothing came out right. When I finally walked to the shop, its lights were dim and the sign flipped to closed. Through the window, I saw her at the counter, phone pressed to her ear, shoulders hunched. She noticed me, but didn't wave. Instead, she mouthed wait and pointed to the back door. Inside the storeroom, it smelled of cardboard and dust. She slipped in after me, closing the door. Her face was pale, her eyes rimmed red. "He knows," she said without preamble. "Who?" "My husband. Ex-whatever." She raked a hand through her hair. "He was here the other day when you were. He saw us. He followed you. I think he went to your building." A chill ran through me. "You're sure?" She nodded, pressing her palms together as though praying. "He sent me a message this morning. Said he knows what I'm doing. Said you're a kid." Her voice cracked on the word. I sank onto a stack of boxes. "I'm not a kid." "I know that," she said, softer now. "But he's angry, and I'm scared he'll make this uglier than it is." I stared at her. "So what do we do?" Her lips trembled. She turned away, rummaging blindly through a pile of invoices. "I told him there's nothing between us." I lied. The words landed like a blow. "You what?" "I had to," she whispered. "If he thinks it's just a flirtation, if he thinks I'm lonely but harmless, he might back off." I stood. "So I'm a lie now?" Her shoulders slumped. "No. You're the only thing that's felt real in a long time." The air between us thickened, hot and thin at once. I took a step closer. "Then stop lying." She spun around, eyes wet. "And ruin you? You don't know him. He can hurt your future." Something inside me snapped. Not anger, exactly, but a clarity I hadn't felt before. "You're not protecting me," I said quietly. "You're protecting yourself from choosing." She flinched. A long silence stretched, only the hum of the refrigerator in the back. Finally she spoke, almost to herself. "I booked a train ticket." I blinked. "What?" "For tomorrow. Early morning. Out of the city. I need to disappear for a while." My heart lurched. "You weren't going to tell me?" She looked at me then, raw and unshielded. I didn't know how. I stepped closer until we were a breath apart. "Then at least let me decide what to do with you leaving." Her hand lifted as if to touch my face, then dropped. "I'm sorry," she whispered. In the dim storeroom we stood, inches apart, everything unsaid pressing in. The train ticket between us like a secret already half broken. The station smelled of diesel and early morning coffee. My breath fogged in the cold as I spotted her on the platform. Coat collar turned up, a small overnight bag at her feet. She looked lighter and heavier at the same time, like someone about to run and someone about to break. She saw me before I called her name. Her eyes widened, then softened. "You shouldn't be here," she said when I reached her. "You booked a ticket without telling me," I replied. "So I figured I'd see you off or stop you." The loudspeaker crackled. A train in the distance wailed. She glanced at the tracks, then at me. "I'm not sure what's safer anymore." "Safe?" I said quietly. "Hasn't felt real since I met you." For a moment she laughed, a small, cracked sound, and pressed her gloved hands to her mouth. "You're supposed to be angry." I was, I admitted. Then I realized we're both just scared. Her shoulders slumped. "He called again this morning. Said he'd follow me. Said he'd ruin you." I stepped closer until we were almost shoulder to shoulder. "Let him try? We can stop running from ghosts." Her eyes flicked to mine. "You're still so young." "I'm 26, I said again, but softer now, a plea instead of a defense. The train rolled in, brakes screeching. Steam hissed around our ankles. She gripped the strap of her bag like a lifeline. "I don't know what comes next," she murmured. "I only know what leaving feels like." I reached out and caught her hand, not hard, just enough for her to feel my pulse. "Then stay long enough to find out what staying feels like." She looked down at our hands, then up at my face. Something flickered there. Fear, hope, maybe both. Around us, passengers surged toward the doors. She didn't move. "I built a life on regret," she whispered. "I don't want to build another on running." "Then don't," I said. The whistle blew. She closed her eyes, drew a shaky breath, and stepped back from the edge of the platform, pulling her bag with her. The train doors hissed shut without her. When she opened her eyes, a tear slid down her cheek. She let go of the bag, let it thump softly to the ground, and leaned into me. Not a movie kiss, not fireworks, just the quiet press of her forehead to my shoulder, a surrender neither of us had rehearsed. In that moment, I knew nothing about the future, whether her ex would relent, whether we'd make it work. But for the first time we were standing still together, not chasing or fleeing. She exhaled. "Okay," she said. "Okay." The train pulled away, leaving a rush of empty air and possibility. I held her hand a little tighter. "We'll figure it out," I said. And for the first time, she didn't pull away.